Have you ever wondered why two data analysts will look at the same data set and come up with two different insights? One of the factors is because of understanding of data structure, unit of analysis. First of all, welcome to my cyberspace. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to understand data structure, unit of analysis, aggregation, and beyond. Let's get right into it. Now, a lot of times when people see a data set, they probably just rush into the analysis and without having a perfect understanding of what data structure is. And the issue might not be because you really do not really want to have a great analysis. It might just be because you don't have a perfect understanding of what is data structure. For you to have a better understanding of what I'm saying, I want us to walk through like an exact data project so that we can see the data structure and I don't just speak theoretically. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen. So first of all, I like to get data set from Kaggle, and I am going to www.kaggle.com. In case you really want to learn how to use Kaggle better, I have a video that talks about how to use Kaggle. But I found this very rich data set. I'm going to be adding this link in the description below this video. And so let's just click on download. So just click on download and click on download zip file. I just try to open up this. You're going to be trying this with two data sets. I'm just going to copy this. First things first is that you want to like try to create a folder for whatever you're doing. I'm just going to make this folder Excel. Depends on for you. I think you want to use something more intuitive or whatever you want to use. Well, let me just put it in this folder since I'm going to be using this data set also in the future. The best thing you want to do is also create a duplicate of your data set. So we'll try to understand what is data structure, what is unit of analysis from this particular data. We're going to also try to understand it from another data set. Let's look at this one, try to open it up. In a separate video, I'm going to be talking about how to use Excel very well. But when you open up this data, it might look a little bit like messy, too many information. But first things first you want to do is you want to just Control A. If you're using a Mac, you might want to do Command A. So when you highlight everything, make sure that you are not highlighting like every aspect. For example, maybe your highlighting is trying to pick up even outside of what you selected, then that's not what you want. So if you want to just make sure that when we Control A, try to put your cursor somewhere and like it stays where the data stops. So one of the things you could do to make this look more fancy is to just press Control T or you write Command T if you are using a Mac. So I'm going to do Control T and I'm just going to do OK to this. What this is asking me is if my first role is the header, which is true right here. So we can see that the first role is the header and let's click on that. So this make things a little looks more fancy. So what do we mean by data structure? Data structure is, it depends on wherever you're speaking with and they can say what data structure is. But in this context, I'm trying to talk about like the level of analysis or the unit of analysis and how do we break this down? Imagine you are living, I mean, everyone lives in a country and you have states, you have like a subsidiary government, either it's a local government or you have like councils or you have like whatever it is. So we have these structures that life gives, and the same thing whereby you have like a, let's say it's a bank account, right? So you have a bank account, but there's a corporate head office, there's sub. So what I'm trying to explain is the old structuring or the hierarchy that life gives. We also have the same structure in our hierarchy in a data set. So most of the time we have data that are nested within a data. You might have a data on individual level information, let's say their age, their sex, and you can have another data on their neighborhood or where they stay. So when you look at the data set, one of the things you want to try to look at is if your data set, most of the things you have is the individual level of analysis. And how do we get to know that? We just try to look at, so this data is about like cars, and we see that for the most part it's talking about like the information for the car, if it's in stock, and I don't think we have more information like on a higher level. If we want to have something on a higher level, maybe we have like 2015, 2016. Let's say we also have like months, then we can say, okay, that's like another nest, or then we have dates. So that's something you could also look at. But this might not be a great data set to, show what we really want to show. Let's, try to look at this other data set. So this is the global crocodile species data set. Like I said, this link is going to be included for you to be able to download this data. And so we have this right here. I just copy this data and I try to paste it in my great data sets folder. So I just try to open this up, and so that's the crocodile data sets that we have. And the same thing, we make sure you control A so as to make it like look more fancy, then control T, then also it has the same header. So one of the few things that I see is that I have like IDs, and I have like the common name, scientific name, family, genius, and all that. So one way to understand the unit of analysis is, let me try to transform this data into something. And in a separate video, I'm going to be talking about how to use Excel more. And so let me go here and go to insert and click on pivot table and a new worksheet. And so it's just going to, so right now, because of this, let me delete this because that did not show properly where I needed to make sure I'm clicking not just one column. Make sure you are clicking every aspect. So Control A, insert, pivot table, a new worksheet. And that is what we see here. So we see that we have a couple of information already. So if I click on sex and I try to pick, say I count, let me see, observation ID, some of this. So what this is saying is that right now we have 166,000 observation. It's a sum, but normally I would want to, let me just do value setting count. It's best I use a count. So right now it's saying, I'm not going to go into details as to why I knew it's going to be count or sum. In my separate video, is going to be talking about that. So I counted like females. We have 321 females, and we have 325 males, and we have 345 persons that their observation that went away. So just going to click on it again, try to do that. So same thing that we did. This is the other data set. So okay, so this, we still have this right here. So first thing is we have, and so let me change this to sum. Change field valid settings to sum. So count. Yeah, the idea behind the count or the sum is that it would not make sense for you to sum some things and you just want to count it. I'm going to talk about more into details when you need to sum or when you need to count. But right now, we are still talking about data structure, so don't lose me. We have 321 females and 325 males. Even though in this information crocodile right here, we do have an information for sex, the structure of this data right now is different from the structure of this data, such that there are things that you would need to do, that you would need to first of all transform this sex data to this structure before you can run the analysis. And there are some things that if you transform this sex to this structure, you won't be able to get your analysis right. So what do I really mean in detail? Imagine you want to do like a bar chart in Excel, right? And we want to maybe know what is the number of males and female crocodile that we have, or you just want to know distribution of the population by sex. And you come here, you click on this. If you know how to use Excel very well, you come here and you just do maybe recommended charts. You might see something like this, and it does it for you, but you don't have a perfect picture of what is actually going on behind the scene. So what they did was, it first of all actually had to aggregate this data before it eventually did the count. So if you, for example, if I didn't do the recommended and I didn't allow the AI help me to work on it. So because it's an AI system already. So instead of recommended chart and I pick, say it's same thing as a bar chart, right? I pick a bar chart, I pick the same thing, you will see that you would have, you're not going to have like a necessary like cold data. So the whole understanding and coming to see what I did here, I already transformed this data, and if I come here and I click recommended charts, you see what's happening. It's giving me the same thing that it did when I just clicked on the AI to assist me. So I understood the process, and instead, if I take this away and I probably take away the recommended chart and I click on this, or click on this, I click on it and I come to the insert, I click on bar chart. Right now I'm having a right information. So what happens is that most of the time as data analysts, we're aggregating the data. So when you have your data as a individual level, and let me take this away. If you have the data as an individual level, especially if it's a categorical data, if you don't know what the categorical data is, my other video is going to be talking about that in details. If it's a categorical data like text data, you might need to first of all aggregate that data. If it's a numerical data, and you might not need to aggregate the numerical data to be able to get like an analysis from it. So let's say these two variables, I want to analyze them, and I click on insert, and I just want to do like a scatter plot, and I do recommended charts. I'm going to have something like really interesting, right? If I take away the recommended charts and I click on insert and I do something, I click on this myself, and this is messy, but let me try to delete it. That's not what I wanted to pick. I click on that. So if I had to select these two data, and instead of doing recommended chart, and I click on right, and this is a scatter plot, and I click on this, I'm still going to get the same thing. So the question is, why did I not like had to like aggregate the same data just the same way I did for like the categorical data? And that is where your perfect understanding of data structure is. So most of the time, get it perfectly well. When it's a categorical data, one of the things you want to do is to aggregate your data. You want to sort of sum them up compared to like numerical data. So looking at this, it's a numerical data. It doesn't it might not need further restructuring, but since it's a categorical data, if this one that was a categorical data, I needed to first of all sum them up. That's why sometimes when you find some persons, they really want to do some analysis and they just click on, oh, I want to know the count of male and female. They are like, oh, that does not make sense. That's one way to be able to excel as a data expert. And if you're using Excel so that you can excel, that sounded like a rhyme. That's something I really wanted to mention. Another thing also is, like I said, is to understand like the unit of analysis. And unit of analysis, as in which I said, like data are nested within each other. Let's give a perfect example, a scenario of this. Let's assume that based off of this observation ID, they do have like a common name. This is the common name for Marel's crocodile, and this is their weight. They have all this information. Then we have the county and the region. So, for instance, they have more information as to in Belize County, we have information for the weather. We have the information for like Venezuela weather. Say, for example, Venezuela weather is 100 and something, and Belize is to maybe 60 something. So when you are trying to merge the data together with maybe you have another data set that has that weather information, and you want to know because of what is the weather temperature for this person. So we know this person is an individual level, but they are still in this Belize country, right? So one of the things we want to try to see is that because of the weather in Belize is 100, meaning that this person that stays in Belize, their weather is also going to be 100. So you want to have like this sort of structuring mentally as to your data. Am I actually thinking about like the proper nesting? And one way to think about this is that imagine where this would go wrong is that imagine this is not like this person now lives in multiple country. The question is now, what is the weather of this person that lives in um maybe this ID1, right? So you probably would be able to say, oh, you found the first information for let me give you instead of even using this data set, a more practical example is somebody lives in four states in the United States. They live in Texas, they live in Oklahoma, they live in Illinois, and they live in New York. I think that's a city or so. But they live in those four different cities or four different places. And the question is, tell me the weather of this person, but because they move every now and then, so you need to know what is their most recent city. You can't just plot any information you find as, oh, because the weather of New York is this, then this person actually this is their current weather. So when you understand those structures, it's going to help you to think well with your data project. So don't just plot or map data together. You actually be doing the wrong thing. Another thing also is, if you're going to be carrying a data or bringing the data from a particular platform to another platform, say you want to bring in your data from SQL to Power BI, one of the things you might want to do is, you don't want to aggregate the data in SQL at all. You might do all your cleaning, you might do everything, but when you aggregate your data in when you aggregate your data in SQL and you try to take it to Power BI, you might not have much of a flexibility to, add filters and all of that. So it's best that you understand this data structure, trying to, I know it's a little bit complex, but just knowing when should I have aggregated, what should I need to do. So next time you analyze your data, one of the questions you want to ask yourself is, what's the restructure of this data? Am I linking them rightly? Secondly is, do I need to aggregate, or do I need to leave it the right structure that it is? But two principles that can help you: if it's a categorical data, you most likely might need to aggregate. If you are doing a bar chart or a visualization, if it's a numerical data, you might not need to aggregate. And that thing that will help you is that if you're moving that data from a platform to a different platform, it may be best to take the data as a individual level structuring, not aggregated level. And one more bonus tip is, when you are merging different data sets, always think about it: is this nesting correct? And if this video was a value for time, do well to subscribe, like, and follow. Other videos will talk about more amazing things that you need to excel as a data expert. Ciao.